Right, folks. I'm going to introduce Mark Stoddart. Because of my dyslexia, I always get your surname wrong, Mark. Right, and I always hit people. It's like people. The person came up with the word dyslexia, came up with it on purpose to torture us. Right. So my apologies if I got your surname wrong. And so it's just when I see it, I get a blank. So it's Mark Stoddart. Stoddart, folks. Okay. So anyone listening saying he pronounced it wrong, it's also on the screen there. Okay. So Mark is an artist. He's a sculptor. He's an author. I'm going to talk about the musical in a few minutes, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And a philanthropist for the last 35 years. So, and Mark is based in Scotland. So, Mark, just let's talk about, first of all, you're dyslexic. Okay, first of all, and you were diagnosed at 13. What was it like in school for you?
Oh dear, we have to go back and visit that. Do I have to?
Well, it's just to give people an idea, because I just have one or two comments here. Sorry, Leanne Murphy. I would love my son to work with you. Leanne, if you want to get in touch with Anne-Marie, it's annemariebegs@gmail.com. Yeah, it's just to give people an idea, Mark, because you're like me. You got diagnosed much earlier than I did. I was 35, so you were 13, which in my book you were lucky. But do you think you were lucky?
No.
No. Okay. And why?
Okay. I went through kind of 2 different schools, and they had no understanding of a neurodiverse individual like myself. When it came to, let's say, even playing sports, I was always the last person, and I wouldn't say picked, I was only the last person that they had to take in their team. My coordination was hopeless. My eyeball contact was hopeless. I was held back in numerous different classes, and people moved up a year and I would still be held back. When I was about kind of 6-7-year-old, I got my sums right. That was a fluke, but never mind, I did it. And the school gave me a half day off. And then when I came back, they turned around and said, right, in school assembly, if he gets his sums right again, the whole school can get a day off. Well, I didn't know I was dyslexic, dyspraxic, dyscalculia. I didn't know at that time. And so I didn't get them right. And so they thought, okay, he's obviously a lazy child. He's obviously, we just need to shock him out of it. So they made a big white cone, put a D on it, and sat me in front of the assembly and then the classroom. I was kind of suffering from severe headaches and various other things. I had a successful father. I had a sister who didn't study, didn't do anything, but could pick up a book, read it, and kind of wing her way through and pass exams and do what she required. And so I looked upon myself as being a massive failure, and I looked upon myself as being a huge embarrassment to the family who was successful, and they had this child who was definitely not successful. I was taken.
But that's horrendous, Mark.
Well, there was other things happened to me as well.
Yeah.
That I've never discussed, and a school teacher put me through that no child should ever have been subject to. And again, I never discussed it, and I've never discussed it to this day, because I looked upon myself as being an embarrassment to the family and brought a huge kind of shame onto the family. So I kept quiet about a lot of things. There was a teacher that used to try and help me read, and so I would go to her for half an hour, and say it was a double-barreled word, and it was just her and I was standing up with a book, holding the book, and I would stand for 30 minutes plus over one word and trying to get the double-barreled word and put it together, and she wouldn't help. But again, I wouldn't say anything to my parents. I was a prep school, and I was supposed to go down to a school in Llandudno in Wales, and the school, just to know more, bordered on what was a legal requirement for the 3 Rs. And they would teach you car mechanics, and they teach you farming and swimming and sports and so on. And the headmaster there had interviewed me, and he was interested in stamps, and I had taken an interest in stamps because a few doors down from me was a retired ICI boffin, and he was an absolute whiz and an expert on stamps, and I picked up quite a few things. So he turned around and said to my father, he says, "Your son's not thick and your son's not stupid." He says, "I believe your son is something called dyslexic." And he said, "You should get the school to test for it." And so, and he said, "This school is totally the wrong school for him." And he says, "I actually think he's got quite a high IQ." And then he says, "He's quite a bright guy." So he says, "Totally wrong school for him here." He says, I wouldn't take him in. So my father went back and explained and said to the school about it. And the school headmaster had said, "Nah, there's no such thing." And even when I was left, he had said, "Nah, if he was dyslexic," still never believed it. And so my father got a child psychologist over the summer term to come and test me. And he says, "Yeah, your son's definitely dyslexic. There's no question about it." And he said, "He's quite severely dyslexic." And he says, "I'd love to use him as," he was a lecturer at Glasgow University, and he said, "I'd love to use him as an example in some of my lectures and so on." And then my father had looked at starting to sue the school about something else that had happened and what they had done. And somebody could have said, "There is no way your son could go through a court case. There's no way your son could go through at a university." He'd gone totally into a shell. He wouldn't go on a bus. He wouldn't go out. And so I was taken away from school straight away at that point. And I went through to Edinburgh to the dyslexia centre. The lady there, lovely lady, tested me, and she says, "Look, I help out at George Watson's in Edinburgh. And so if you can get an interview at George Watson's, then I'll get your son in." So my father looked at putting the house up for sale, and family all moving through to Edinburgh. And my father knew one of the board directors of the George Watson's. So I got an interview and I didn't get in. And they said, "No," says, we've got 6 kids here. We can't possibly take any more people that are dyslexic here. We couldn't. And she said she overpromised. And then my father took seriously ill and was ill for over 2 years. I got forgotten about and left at home for 2 years on my own. And I just took up gardening and messing about. And because I'd come away from school, I had 0 friends. I'd lost touch with everybody. And so I was basically forgotten about for 2 years. And then...
What age then?
But I was coming into about 15 at that point. I was over 15. And then my father took me along to the local council and said, he's interested in gardening. Maybe there might be an outside chance that he could cut grass and get a job with the council cutting grass. And he says that's all he would ever achieve in his life. And then somebody reported my father for having me sitting at home. My father got well against every odds. And my father was a huge, bigger than life character. And quite an overpowering kind of person. And he did what he thought he was doing for the right reasons, but didn't go about it in the right way. And so my father got shoved into having to find a school for me. So he found the school down in Sussex, and the school in Sussex is the first dyslexic school in the world, Frome College. And I had never been on a bus on my own, I'd never been on a train on my own, let alone an airplane on my own, and I'd never been away anywhere. And I was literally going into a shell and wouldn't interact with people and had zero confidence. But I realised it was the only opportunity I was going to get in my life. So when I went down, and everybody thought, well, there's no chance he's going to stay down there, we're going to have to bring him back. But I knew it was the only chance that I had. And basically, I started back at square one, going back through all my education up until just over 18. And the headmaster at the time, he was different. I mean, all the teachers were different, but he had a different outlook, and he would give you as much rope as you want. But you know, if you hung yourself, well, he'd pull you in. But he had zero interest, zero respect for any parents, and it was all about trying to support the kids at the school. So he used to allow me to go up to London for the weekends and go down to Brighton for the day. And he used to, I used to sometimes go down to the school before it opened up, and there was no teachers, there was no people, there was nothing. He lived in a house in the ground. The house was built in 1600s, maybe even earlier, and it sat in a mile radius of ground. He would give me the keys, open the school up, and he says, look, I've just kicked the heating over. So he says all the massive big floorboards will creak, crong, bang, and everything as it starts to going up. I was the only person in the whole school. You try and sell that to an insurance company, they would out. You gave a child the whole school to himself and the keys to the whole place himself for a few days before any teachers, anybody came in. They were like, you're going crackers. And the last term, well, I went down last year. I was invited down to present the prizes, and it's normally Lord so-and-so or MP so-and-so they get, but they got little old me, and I hadn't realised, but it was the last hours, like no day of the headmaster. He was retiring, and it was all the pupils, all the teachers, all the staff, and all the parents. And I had to give up and give the prizes, but I had to give a talk as well. And I really, I felt it really emotional going back and doing that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because the school had totally changed my life. I mean, the last summer term, as I say, I had parents that was an advantage of, but in another side angle was probably a disadvantage. And that the last summer term, the headmaster had said, right, my father went and bought me a new car, brought it down. Yes, privileged, thank you. And the headmaster turned around and said to all the teachers at the school, brought them into the assembly and says, right, none of you have any jurisdiction over him at all for the last summer term. He is only answerable to me and me only, personally, end of story. And most of them never had a clue that I had a car sitting outside. And the idea behind it was I could go for my father that had a small manufacturing pharmaceutical business and go around to the hospitals and build self-belief, build confidence, and go and try and sell to the hospitals. So it was talk about thinking outside the box. But going back to my father having the pharmaceutical, go back to my father having the pharmaceutical company. I remember we were sitting in a meeting one time, and it was the director of Boots for a buyer, and he came to us and had been out for lunch, and the guy opened up and was chatting away in my father's office, and he said, yes, he said, I've got a son, and he was explaining very severe physical disabilities the son had, and it was quite quite emotional that he opened up and he would and talked about his son and the challenges he had and so on. And my father was sitting listening and so on. And at the end, he turned around and says, "Yeah, I know how you feel. I've got a disability son here as well." I thought, dear God, I'm in the same camp as that in your head. I mean, the guy would have been delighted to have a son like me, but you were putting me in the same camp. And it's like, Jesus.
Yeah. But isn't it great that your father had the wisdom to go and find that school for you? Like,
he didn't have the wisdom. He didn't have the wisdom. He was reported to the authorities, and he was pushed into it.
Right. Okay. So it was a case of he had to find somewhere.
It was go to jail or find me a school.
But he still found a dyslexia school, which made a huge difference.
It was the best school in Britain, and if I will turn around and say it was the best school in the world, and it was the best school for me.
Yes, yeah, it was the best school for you, and if it had been just for another normal school, you probably would still be the artist that you are today, but you would still have a lot of those struggles.
I wouldn't. I don't think I would have even been that. Sorry for interrupting you. I don't think I would have even been that. No. I had no belief. I had no self-confidence. I wouldn't have done anything. I would have just been a burden in society and a burden in life.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I always say to people that, the most important thing for your kids is that they're able to function well in society and in life. It's not about how much can you stuff into their heads. It's about are they nice people? Are they kind? Can they do they have some skill that they want to share with the world? Can they have a conversation? Because an awful lot of kids can't have conversations. Can they look after themselves? Without all those practical things, then kids don't survive and they don't do well. There's the prisons are full of loads of kids who, were disadvantaged in one way or another. School didn't suit them, or So I mean, for society, it's important that parents recognize what are the essential things that your kids need, and what's going to support them socially and emotionally and mentally. And not focus so much on academics. I mean, when I was in school, there was one girl who was very, very good at school. This girl, because of some mental health struggles that nobody was aware of. Now, this girl was very, very academic, but she ended up committing suicide after the Leaving Cert because she expected to get 9 A's. She didn't. She failed everything. To this day, nobody knows why that happened, because that had never happened to that child before. And obviously she couldn't cope with the disappointment of the school, the disappointment of the family. And when you think about what you said about the school that you went to was the right school for you, at one stage I had my 3 children in 3 different schools, because I believe that different schools provide different things to different kids. And that one size doesn't fit all. And so that's why they were all in different environments. And one of them I ended up homeschooling, not the dyslexic one, mind you. The youngest one, who realized that there's not really anything that a parent can do when you're 12 or 13 and you decide that you're not going. They can't, as one parent said to me, I don't know what the school expects me to do. I can't bring her up and just throw it over the wall because her child wouldn't go to school. And I think that's a difference at this generation. They actually realize, well, actually, I have quite a lot of power. I can just decide I'm not going. What are they going to do about it?
Yeah, I decided not to go to school on certain occasions, and for that, I was given 6 of the letter on each hand when I came back. And it was today I could actually say I'm not going. I'm going to be homeschooled. On my time, there was no homeschool. I keep telling people that I got saved because I got a summer job on the car ferries that my dad got me, and I learned I am not stupid. I have a brain. I'm very good at maths. I'm very good at talking to people. I can actually sell sandwiches. I can sell this. I can do this. And only for that and those 4 summers on the car ferries for 3 months at a time, I would be still going back to school after every holiday, believing what the teachers told me. depressed that you're stupid, you couldn't read, and you're too slow at this, and you were lazy. The lazy was the big thing. Even though I knew I wasn't lazy, and I worked very hard to try and understand algebra and understand stuff.
So how did you get into the sculpting, Mark?
Yeah, because
how did you go from the person who loved gardening, and then you went to the dyslexia school, and then, I mean, I met Mark about 2 years ago when Mark was launching his book, Make a Mark, in Dublin. Now, I have to admit, I had no idea who Mark Stoddart was at the time. But I said, oh, yeah, someone who's doing something in the dyslexia world. I looked him up and I said, oh, wow, he's actually very famous. And I went along to the lunch, and when I met Mark, the one thing that I noticed about him was that he was just a nice, normal person. Because not everybody who's been very successful are nice, normal people. And I thought he was like quite shy. There was actually only a small group of us, but something about Mark anyway really appealed to me. And then I went online. I've chatted to Mark like a few times, and we met at the dyslexia conference. And I think the thing that stands out most about Mark is, while he has an impressive catalogue of achievements, but he's such a kind person, and I know that lots of people connect with him for various different reasons. And I know that Mark says yes to an awful lot of things and donates an awful lot of his sculptures. But I think he gives up an awful lot of time as well. And, time is very precious. And so he's always flying around doing charity work, visiting someone, setting up schools. I'm like, wow, how does he have time to do all this? But so how did you actually get into the whole world of art?
Good question. When I was down at school in Sussex, the woodwork teacher used to give me the key to the woodwork room, and I used to go in and mess about and do bits and pieces, and it was mainly just for myself that I was doing it. Again, that what you just handed a child a key to woodworking lathes and everything else. Again, when I went to school last year, we were wandering around about different things, and I says, in there, I said, was the cupboard, and I said there was Major. The Major, I said, used to give me the set of keys. And I said, I used to go into the gun cabinet and get about 4 rifles and put them on me and go out and so on. And it was like, what? You were allowed to go and get the guns? And you could walk out with 4 rifles and go out. And I says, yeah. So, yes. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that context, but he was like that.
Yeah.
One, there was guns on the on the
school in the school. Yes.
And 2, you had the keys to the cabinet to just go and help yourself to the guns. He was like, what?
Yeah.
So, but it hadn't crossed my mind at all. So I worked for an American pharmaceutical company down in London, and because of my dyslexia, I ended up getting fired from it. And I was getting engaged at the time. I was engaged and getting a house built in Walton-on-Thames, and then I was going to work for a huge finance company, huge big company, and I got offered the job, and the CEO for the company had said, oh, could you come to the boardroom? And everybody says, this is very weird. He says, doesn't normally ask. So I went along there, and they said, shoved a paper in front of me and says, read that. And I stumbled across a few words, and he says, you've got something called dyslexia. And I says, yes. He says, oh no. He says, we couldn't have somebody like that working for our organization. I says, yeah, but I've been offered the job. He says, oh no, I'm revoking the job. So, and I'd worked for my father before that, and then I sadly went into the engagement, and everything all imploded, and my health imploded, and my mental health totally imploded. and I didn't work for a while, and nobody had a clue what was going on in my life apart from my father. And I never took any medication, but I tried lots of different things trying to get myself back, and it took quite a long time. And I still suffer from panic attacks and phobias and so on. So then I went and started to work for my father again, and I would take a product from scratch and create it, then create the packaging, then alter machinery, and then take it to market. And then I worked for an advertising company and worked for them for a while. And then eventually, again, I got fired from them because of my dyslexia. And then I went and took other sculpture and thought, okay, could I turn this into functional art and put a piece of glass onto it? So I altered it and changed it, and I tried that. And yeah, it kind of ticked away, and I thought, okay. And so my father had sold the business out at that point, and I had a very small shareholding in it. So I had some money. So I went down to the Ideal Home Show in London and put it in and tried it there. And I brought a super singing and dancing salesperson in that we spent ages interviewing that could, my God, could she sell? And so between the two of us, and the whole thing rocketed and the way it went. And sadly, my father suddenly died after a few months of selling the business out. He suddenly died. It was quite a shock. So most people thought at that point, oh, well, that's it all over. Then he's just going to go into pieces, and that's it, finished. But to everybody's surprise, I did the opposite, and most people never thought I would do that. And I kind of picked it up and built the business up. So from realizing that these pieces would sell and they would do, then I put my money where my mouth was and started to do my own designs and my own sculptures, and then kind of took it off from there. And so 35 years later, I just do the odd piece now and again. At one point, I was doing 18 exhibitions a year. I was going to New York. I was going to Chicago, Monaco, and loads of places. And there is no part of the world you can't mention that somebody will not have collected one of my sculptures and done a piece for the man that walked on the moon. I've done a piece for the King of Saudi Arabia. I've done a piece for Elton John, and a piece in the Scottish Parliament, and the list just goes on and on.
It's a huge list.
Yeah. It's a list when you look at a Mark and think, what would his teachers from the original school say now? Like it's a fantastic then and now. But the other thing is interesting.
It's a big legacy.
You were talking about like one of the jobs you took back the offer of the job, another one you lost the job because of dyslexia. And it's funny, people say, well, things have changed now, but we had someone very recently who worked for a very big organization in Ireland, and not a public organization. Sorry, it is a public organization, not a private organization. And they went for a review with their HR people. And during the review, this HR person said, and how is your disease? And the person said, sorry, what disease? I don't have a disease.
And they looked down at their notes.
They looked down notes. Yeah, your dyslexia disease. And it's weird to think that like people hear you talk about your stories and my stories, other people's stories, and they say, yeah, but things have changed. But really, nothing has changed, has it, in an awful lot of places?
There's an organisation in Scotland called Enable, and I was chatting away to one of their directors at an art exhibition. I had a sculpture in an art gallery, and we were raising money for charity. And I was asked to do a little talk at the art gallery for an evening, and there was this lady along and a couple of her colleagues. and we were just chatting about things in general, and I kind of flipped across it, not mentioning names, and she turned around and said, we actually went to that company that you said, and she said, we walked back out the door once we realised they hadn't, and they haven't changed, and they just wanted us in so they could tick the box that they'd got a professional company in to advise them what to do. But they says they weren't listening to anything we were telling them, and they weren't going to implement anything we said. It was only a tick the box exercise, and they said, forget it, we're out the door. We don't need to put up with companies like you. And I was like, all these years later, and it still hasn't changed. Well, personally, no, it hasn't. Like an apology. Personally, I'd like an apology from the CEO, because it hugely what he did hugely impacted on my life. Whether it's anything to do with why I ended up never actually getting married and so on and so on, but he's a huge impact on my life from making that decision. And I would like an apology from the company. Okay, not financial apology, just an apology to what you actually, that split second thing you did, to what impact that had on the rest of my life.
That's I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? How it impacts, like how people in companies and schools, how much impact they have on young people's minds and long-term mental health. I remember when my son was doing the Leaving Cert. Now he was fortunate; he was in a very nice school, but the teachers wanted him to like drop down from past physics to like higher level physics to lower level. And I sent a letter into the school and I said to them, the level of the subject is irrelevant. He's dyslexic. The same words are used in both levels of physics, so it's not going to make any difference which level he does. Anyway, he did the lower level and he got an A. Now, the lower level is not designed for people to get A's. It's for people who are struggling in different subjects. But he did very, very well in his Leaving Cert exam, which is a bit like the A levels. But unlike the story you're talking about, the principal of the school came and said to me, Anne-Marie, I have to apologise. What you said was correct. I didn't realise, that the decisions that we were making were not the correct ones. And when I saw your son's report, he goes, I was absolutely flabbergasted. So, I mean, it was nice. So he didn't have to say that, and most people don't admit that they were wrong, that they are wrong. And our son did very well. He's like you, very, very creative. But not all kids have those opportunities.
No.
Some are, And so, we were able to provide, options for our son, like your dad was able to provide a better option for you. But there's a lot of kids who don't have those options.
Well, most kids don't have that option. Most kids.
No, they don't.
No.
Yeah, you're right. Most kids don't. And most kids' parents, we're all very busy, and that's why an awful lot of children, if there's 2 or 3 or 4 kids in the family, they've all gone to the same school because it's just
easier.
It's easier. They can bring them all in one go. They can collect them all in one go, and it's what everyone would call normal life. And a lot of kids don't have the opportunities, and the system, and worse, the system doesn't allow them to operate and be something different because the system doesn't want anybody different.
Not really, yeah.
Well, if I can put something else in the pot here. We use the word dyslexia, then you can use the word dyspraxia, dyscalculia, or autistic, and you could use neurodiverse and so on. It's not just here in the Western world, America, Ireland, Scotland, England. It is worldwide that a lot of kids are leaving without the ability to basically have the basic skills of being able to read and write correctly. That I think is disgraceful. But just last week, I get messages in literally every day from different people from all around the world. And there was one last week, and I'm trying to help a school that's just not long set up in Uganda. And a lady contacted me to say that she came from the same area, the same kind of village where the school is. And she said that all the schools in Uganda at the moment are on strike for a month. And she said the state schools have 220 kids in one classroom to one teacher. And she said, when I went to school, she said, there were 552 other children in the classroom to one teacher. And she said, and if you take the word neurodiverse and say, some people say it's 15%, some people say 20% of the population are neurodiverse, but you could possibly say that 100 of the kids in that school, in that class, would be neurodiverse. And let's say that one teacher is an absolute superstar, that they're not, sadly, because they've not been trained, but let's say they're an absolute superstar and has been for numerous trainings all around the world in all different conditions, still would not have a cat and hell's chance of doing a single thing to help any of the children in that classroom. So I come back to the word poverty, and I'm helping some of the kids at that school go to school and supporting them. And they don't even have a pair of shoes, so you've got to buy them shoes, and they don't have food. And some of the kids talk about, we have not got a single clue in life. Some of the kids got bought last Monday a hen, and you sit and think,
oh, I saw
what
that. Yeah.
the heck are you buying a child a hen for? But that hen, I didn't understand either, but that hen by probably January will be laying eggs, and it will have X amount of chicks, and within 6 months, if you grow the chicks, run them on, you can end up buying a goat, and then from the goat you can run on, and I know you need to have a cockerel as well to do it, but and then they could end up having a cow, and then they end up becoming very wealthy family. And you're like, wow, you just don't think about it. But it's not just Africa, and it's not just India. I'm trying to do a project. It's a friend actually in Dublin that has built quite a few schools in India, and I'm trying to see if HSBC Bank can get involved, because they're interested in helping girls, and it's been the girls that I'm sponsoring at the school in Uganda, because they either get married off young, or they end up having to work around the house, or work on the land, or if there is a little bit of money, and quite often there's not, but if there was, it would be the male that would get sent to school, not the female. So it's to try and give them a chance. And that is basically what I've tried to do, is give children an opportunity, one, not to go through some of the things that we, Mark, went through and subject to, but also give them an opportunity in life to hopefully get a break and realise their own personal dreams in life, and just give them a chance in life. But you give them the basic skills. I mean, the schools give them, there's somebody there that will teach them how to grow crops. There'll be somebody there that will show them how to make their own clothes and do different forms of art. And when we use the word art, it's very broad. You can be a designer for furniture, designer for, you could be a great chef, and that's artistry and it's right, and an architect and it's AI, and
huge.
The word art is, but I've always say that even if they're not going to make a career out of it, and personally, to some point you actually don't want to make a career out of it, and you might say, why on earth not? Because when I was doing it at full throttle, and I had the truck, I had the van, I had the staff in the office, and we were doing 18 plus exhibitions a year and so on, I was literally prostituting myself, because I was sitting at an exhibition, I had to sell to pay the animal behind me and feed it.
Yeah.
But if you can, as a child, whether it's gardening, whether it's drawing, painting, sculpture, pottery, whatever, and that's your little world, and you sit and do it, and you enjoy it and you like it, that is yours for the rest of your life. And as you go on throughout your life and you hit a bump in the road in life, you still, whether it's 10 years or something later, you've never have touched it, you can go back to that, and that's your little world, and it's your comfort zone, and it's part of you, and it's not part of anybody else, and it's yours.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that means something.
It's a place to relax. I remember my eldest daughter was a very passionate dancer, and she went to performing arts college. Actually, both my daughters did in London, and she was actually very academic as well. But you know, dancing was her passion. But I remember, so we have like 2 sets of exams. So for both sets, she wrote the same English essay. So it's the only English essay she entertained writing. And all she did was upgrade it for the Leaving Cert. Now, she did very, very well in all her exams. But like, she wrote about how she felt when she danced. And like, when you read it, like, it was very, very inspiring. And she said, like, she just like used to talk about art. Like, she just went into her own world where she was just herself. But when she was doing the Leaving Cert, I said, you haven't written many essays. And she goes, no, well, I don't need to. I'm writing the same essay again. So no matter what, the topics were, she managed to rework this essay. And that's what she wrote about.
And it worked. And then also, Mark, on your book, which is like, not everyone writes a book, right? You're an author, I'm an author, I'm an author.
I don't like books either.
No, but here's the thing.
It's the most weird thing doing a book, but not.
But your book is now a musical.
Oh yeah, I forgot to.
It's like very few people's books going to be a musical. So like that's another big leap.
How did that happen, Mark? How did the book suddenly become the musical?
No idea. I'm a clue. You tell me.
Was this your idea or someone else's?
I can't take the idea. Sorry. Nope. I have to give it. It's Donna and Dan in America, and it's Global Lighthouse Studios and Mark Z Foundation in California. And they said, why not turn it into a musical? And I did look at doing it as a play or doing something. And this is no. So the concept is, yes, it's my story. But what we're all trying to achieve here, we're trying to get children to get an understanding of different forms of neurodiverse. So I'm not Shakespeare, but let's look at a Shakespeare play, and you've got a play, book, musical, and so how many times, and it probably will carry on, has it been readapted, changed, altered, and so on. So taking the concept that yes, we've done the music, yes, we've done the words, and the idea is the musical will be given round the world to different schools in remote parts, and the children will look at it, and then they will do their own interpretation of my story and make it to their own culture. And they could even alter names to suit their own country. And so the play then becomes their own and will connect with them. it's the same with the schools that are funded to be built. People said, why did you not set up a foundation? Why do you not set up a charity? And I says, well, we're looking for longevity and we're looking for just to help people, and it's not about me. So
Sure.
if it was somebody in Scotland that owned it, well, we're not going to connect. It has to be connecting to the local village, town, county,
Yeah, it has to be relatable
country,
to the environment.
and
Yeah.
so on. And then hopefully it has got longevity at that point. But, you know, if I drop dead, then what happens then? And it wouldn't work. And so that's the idea of the musical, is it becomes theirs, and it can then move to different countries around the world. That Donna is already dealing with different schools in different parts of the world, and so they can lift the play and make the musical their
More
own,
personal to them. Yeah.
connect.
Very good. Yeah. I mean, it's a great idea. It's not something that I've heard of before. I mean, obviously, I had 3 kids, and they all did musicals, and they did. I remember my daughter went to a Church of Ireland school, even though we're not Church of Ireland. She moved from a Montessori school to this school because it was small, and they used to do the most interesting concepts of the nativity every Christmas. It was actually bonkers, some of the things they used to include in it. There was spaceships and space shuttles. And this would be in the church. And you're like, I didn't know all of them were there then. But you're right. Kids love to be creative and have, something that they can be proud of, and something that's, related to their own, the environment that they're living in, not Scotland per se. So one of the other areas, Mark, that I know that you're passionate about is the whole area of dementia awareness, and you're doing a lot of work in that field as well. So how'd you get involved in that?
Well, I always start from the point that everything intertwines. It doesn't sit on its own. And people should work together and pull together. But sadly, that just doesn't happen around the world. But I wish it did more, because you look at dementia and you say, right, people who are caring for people with dementia, a lot of them are suffering from mental health issues. A lot of people with dyslexia, neurodiverse, are suffering from mental health issues. It doesn't sit in isolation. There's a professor in Edinburgh doing research work, and he's based in London, and controversial here, but J.K. Rowling has given 12 million and then a further 50 million towards the research work that he's doing. And I was at a meeting down at the British Motor Museum, just towards Oxford, and he got up and gave a little presentation to do with dementia, and he just skipped across a couple of words, and I happened to be sitting on the top table. I don't know why I was sitting there, but never mind.
Because you're so important, Mark.
I'm sitting there and I was like, why am I sitting here? I mean, one of the gentlemen was in charge of McLaren, and this was this and this was that, and I was like, I think you've got me in the wrong table here. But so I was fortunate sitting at the table next to him, and I said to him, I says, you mentioned the word neurodiverse in your conversation and your presentation there. And he says, yes. He said, I've done quite a lot of research work on it, and people who are neurodiverse are more prone to getting dementia. And I thought, oh dear God, lucky white heather. So it was quite an eye-opener, to say the least. So it intertwines. The reason why I'm probably doing what I'm doing with dementia is Sir Jackie Stewart's wife, Lady Helen Stewart, sadly got dementia, and Sir Jackie is a winner and he likes to succeed, and he, despite having all the contacts and everything else, he couldn't find a cure for his wife. So he set up Race Against Dementia to try and find a cure. So he has helped Dyslexia Scotland in numerous occasions, and he has helped me in the different projects that I've done. One was to get permission from Ford in America with a legal document to say that I could recreate the Model T Ford and recreate and use the Ford logo on the Sculptor. So as a thank you back to him, I've done a sculpture for that, and for what he's done and does for Dyslexia Scotland. And when I used to live in London, Sir Jackie was involved with the British Dyslexia Association, and I used to help them as well when I lived in London. So the two of us ended up moving to work and help Dyslexia Scotland. So it all intertwines. It doesn't sit in isolation.
Yeah.
And
Mark's
people
dad
turn around
had
and say,
dementia.
why? People turn around and say, why are you helping schools abroad? I mean, I do stuff here in the UK, but again, I turn around and say, you can't look, you've got to think global, because as you've got just now, as America had or might have again, and Australia, so on and so on, people will migrate from their own country. You've got to help them to be able to stay in their own country, because they want to stay in their own country and earn a living and be able to survive. But if you totally ignore it and don't help them in some little way, then the problem will be on your own doorstep, and that is what is happening. So we've got to, you can't just think, let's help the person next door or in our town or our village or our county. You've also got to think.
You're right, because I mean, it's very much a global society now anyway. And like you said, people move around the world constantly now, from place to place. And then people complain about them coming in and they're not well educated. Well, they're only coming in because there's a lack of opportunities where they are living. So if you educate them, then they can create their own opportunities.
And I suppose we saw during COVID and the pandemic, it was a global operation, even coming up with the
vaccines.
The vaccines and all, and a global operation to get them out as quickly as possible. And it's probably one of the first times that people realize working globally and the communities and science and doctors and all working together globally can actually make a difference very quickly.
It's not going to happen.
No.
I'm sorry. I mean, I've never understood, and whether it's my neurodiverse brain thinks and looks at things very simplistic terms, I don't know. But I sit and look at, say, I don't understand why the Western world never got together and said, right, common cold or penicillin or an antibiotic or this, why they don't set up research institutions and companies that will come up with a cure for something, not something that you can take for the next 10, 20 years and a company can make a fortune from. Find a cure for something. But the world governments don't do it, and they don't go and all put a certain amount of money in, and they don't. And the pharmaceutical company, well, the structure is not there to find a cure. That's the one thing that I admire hugely about Sir Jackie Stewart's charity, is he does want to find a cure, because he's not there to make money. He's wanting to find a cure. But again, if you go back to say something like the Amazon forest, I can't understand for the life of me why the Western governments didn't all turn around and sit down and say, right, Britain, I mean, we chopped down all our oak trees and built sailing ships, and we did this and did that and got rid of a load of our forests, and you can rhyme that off around the world. Why the Western worlds didn't all say, right, it's your country, we don't own it, but you need money, we get that. We will take the Amazon forest over, look after it, police it, and we'll make sure it's all done, and we'll give you a certain amount of money every year for us to look after it and maintain it for the world. Because where a lot of the pharmaceutical products are coming from and start off from the contraceptive pill, that is where it came from, was the Amazon forest, from something they found there. And there's still things there that we could find. And why does people not, Western worlds, not countries, not do that? So I just don't get it. It just seems so simplistic to me. And another, why?
Sometimes I think
we're destroying ourselves.
Yeah, I think sometimes, Mark, it's because pharmaceutical companies make so much money by not providing a cure, by providing treatment. That they can treat people for some things for 20 years. If they cure them, then they're losing out on all that.
There is no money in a cure, so they're not going to find a cure.
No, there isn't. No,
there is no money in it.
Mark, we have someone from Ghana who would like to know how they find out about the musical if their school wants to do it.
Just get in touch, and Donna will look at it. The school down in Sussex looks as though I'm having a meeting in November about it, and they're looking at doing it. So, Donna and Dan can do that, and myself, and we can send it through to you.
So is there any email address or website they should go to?
Just contact yourselves and then fire it back.
Right. Okay. So
I'm dealing with some things in. I'm already dealing with some things in Ghana already. I don't think it's anywhere that I'm not doing something, but I
will pass on the information to you.
Simple, just to go to you and then come back to me.
Absolutely.
And we can pass it on.
So dyslexia Ghana _MU2KAN. If you want to contact amorybags@gmail.com, she'll get all the details for you. Mark,
thank you so much.
It's fantastic. Yeah, thanks for giving us your time. I still would like to see the faces of those teachers going back all those years. When you say you've done stuff for Nelson Mandela, you've done stuff for Bishop M22 and other people. Because the amount of stuff you've done and all that massive stuff you're doing to help schools and build schools and help education and educate people is just phenomenal. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Could I leave you with two thoughts?
Yes.
One, it was a meeting with Sir Jackie Stewart, and I've said to a few people, and they look at me with horror, and I said to him, and I said, he paused for a while, and I thought, oh gosh, it's another one I've said that I should. And I said, I don't feel as though I've ticked the box, and I don't feel as though I'm successful. And he looked at me and he says, I'm the same. He says, I haven't ticked the box and achieved. I don't feel I've achieved either. And he says, just as well both of us have. Because he says, if we had, we wouldn't keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah.
There's always a lot more to do.
A lot of parts of the world, I understand that they don't have the facilities, they don't have the backup, and they don't have the knowledge. But the one thing we can all have is be kind. Because what you do to a child can imprint on the child for the rest of their life. So just please be kind. Yes, they can be disruptive as hell in the classroom. They can be this, they can be that, and really annoying, and I get all that, but try and just be kind, because some things that you do can have serious implications on a child's life and into adult life. So please be kind.
And also, words have an effect. Words and actions have an effect.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Mark. I really appreciate it.
So great to chat to you again.
Take care of yourself.
Keep up with your work. Take care, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Hopefully see you again soon.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.